Ready? All right. I just want to start out by thanking our fans. It's the second week in a row that it's been a little tropical in Lubbock, Texas. I know some people have gotten sunburned, and man, it's just awesome to be at a place that people show up and they make such a big difference. We have a true home field advantage, and so I can't thank our fans enough. We're going to need you Saturday night. Cincinnati's a really good football team. I'm going to talk about them here in a few minutes, but they're a really good football team, and man, Jones AT&T's got to be the toughest place in America to play, and y'all just keep doing it, and y'all keep showing up, and I appreciate you. Man, I want to thank my strength staff, my training staff, and our nutrition staff. I thought they were elite on Saturday. I mean, whenever you're talking about guys that are having to get IVs either before or at halftime, just having them ready to go. We didn't have anybody that missed any single snap because of the whether they weren't ready or the heat or everything like that. That just says a lot about our staff whenever it comes to those guys. Scout Team Players of the Week this last week was Cheta Afila on the defense, so the offense chose them. And I said something about this guy in the press conference on Saturday, but Wesley Smith was the other guy. He was the guy that wore number 4 all week long. And, man, he really got us ready to tackle a really good running back. It's going to be interesting who's going to be that guy this week because number 21 from Cincinnati is pretty special. He's a really good football player. Man, I don't know Coach Satterfield very well. I've met him a couple times through, media day, but I have a lot of respect for him. I still remember in 2007 and him bringing an App State team into Michigan and beating Michigan. I think they were ranked number 7 at that time, but man, it's one of the greatest upsets in the history of college football. I listened to a podcast of him this summer with Adam Brenneman. It's a great podcast if y'all kind of want to get a sneak peek into Cincinnati football, but man, it's just he's done it the right way. He's earned everything that he has. He's won every place that he's been. They're a really good football team. They've got an offensive line that has 3 guys that have NFL grades. Number 67 was first-team all-conference last year. They've got a tight end that should go in the first 3 rounds. Number 11, he is really good. Just a total tight end as far as pass catching. He gets open. He's a really good run blocker. We're going to have to know where he is on the football field. Their running back, number 21, he's a few yards ahead of Taj, but he was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He's a really good football player. Got a fast wide receiver in Henderson that I think he's in the top 4 in the conference. And then their quarterback hasn't turned the ball over. Man, he does a great job. He's very efficient, and really runs their offense. This is going to be a great game. Defensively, they've got a nose guard that has an NFL grade. I mean, he is an animal, 6'1.5", 320 pounds. They got a defensive end that's top 2 or 3 in sacks in the conference, number 97. They've got a new scheme, a new DC, so it's going to be Iowa State. They're odd stack. He was their linebackers coach for Iowa State for a long time. He's a really, really good coach. I followed his career just because we ran some of that defense my last year with Matt Rule at Baylor. So, man, if you don't, I know it's sold out, so I'm sure you could find a ticket somewhere, but you ought to get a ticket. This is going to be one of the best college games, on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're both 3-1. We're both 1-0 in Big 12 play, and the way the Big 12 is right now and what we thought it was going to be is going to be wide open, and this is a huge game. And so really excited about Cincinnati coming into Lubbock. I'm glad we're playing them here. I'm glad we're going to be wearing black, our fans, and so nobody's surprised with the jersey reveal. The Red Raiders will be in all black on Saturday night. I'm sorry, Matt, if that's letting the cat out of the bag, but let's just all wear black on Saturday. I'll probably have white sleeves on, but I'll be in all black, and man, I'm excited. I can't wait for this game. So with that, I'll open up with questions.
Coach, more than 50% of your defensive snaps are coming from underclassmen. Who stands out to you right now?
Man, Mo Horn. He is playing his tail off. He was so physical. He made some big plays. If you go back, one of the fourth down stops was him. And anytime schematically on the offensive side of the ball, you can have your running back on a corner, you feel like that's a win, especially with that running back, and it wasn't a win. He's really physical. I thought Macho Stevenson stepped up. That was his first college start, opposite of Mo. I thought he played really well. And then you keep seeing guys like John Curry and Michael Dingle. He had a big play to flush the quarterback. But we're playing a lot of young guys on defense, and the more they play, the better they're going to get. I think one thing that the defensive staff has done is I want to say simplify, but really we're taking reps and things that we got a lot of reps banked, in our account of doing things that we're really good at. And, that's the challenge. That was the challenge this morning in our staff meeting, is continuing to do things our guys are good at, and you almost want the coaches on game day to get out of the way from the standpoint of trying to make a call that's going to win the game versus just going out and making the calls to where our guys can go execute.
You're a third of the way through the season so far. Can you give a letter grade to your special teams, your offense, your defense, and yourself?
I think special teams, we had some opportunities last week to return some kicks, and so I would have given us an A+ before that game, and so I know Kenny has said the same thing. We didn't affect the game enough on the special teams other than the blocked extra point. We've got to get a lot better, so we're probably a B there. Offensively, we're trending in a good direction. Where this is the most points that we've averaged, I think, since we've been here. I think we're, in the top 25 in almost every offensive category. Barron's playing really well. Taj is playing well. And, our offensive skills, especially Josh Kelly, Caleb Douglas really got us going early in the game, but I think we're doing a good job. We've got to continue to be better. There's going to be a time to where we didn't have to, but we're going to have to go for it on fourth down. We've got to be better in those situations. We got to be better running in short yardage. We're trying to get the first down like in 2nd and 2 last week, and they stopped us, so then we had to go to 3rd and 2 or 3, but in a good direction. Defensively, we're getting better. I'm still frustrated. The long run or the long pass that we gave up the last 2 weeks on the exact same call, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if we never called that pressure from the field again. It should be a good play, but it's not. We're not getting good communication across it. We're losing leverage, and it's frustrating. But I think, defensively we are getting better. We've, you look at the numbers, we're growing in some areas. We've got to do a great job this week of stopping the run, so I want to be good in that, but we've got to get better. Our pass defense is still lacking. I think we're in the hundreds whenever it comes to where we're ranking in pass defense. Even if you take that first game out, we're still, I think, probably in the 80s, and that's not where we need to be, but we're getting better. And then, with me, man, we got to keep winning at home, but ask me that in a couple weeks when we go back on the road, because that's been the frustrating for me. I don't think I've got to get a lot better as a head coach on the road. We've got to play better on the road, but luckily we play Cincinnati and Jones AT&T. We love playing at home, and so we'll be ready for Saturday.
You talked about a little bit about tweaking the defensive calls some, but how much of the improvement on defense is just simply a lot of young guys getting experience?
It's a lot, man. Anytime you can just clear the nerves. I mean, your nerves are good, but there's a difference between, just a normal going out and playing because you're excited and anxious versus just, I don't want to say scared to death, but scared to death. Like you're just out there, you feel like you're on an island and nothing could go right. I think that has a lot to do with it. I do think that we continually are putting our players in better positions. I just keep challenging myself to challenging the coaches like, man, we've got to trust our players. We have some really good players, and they're starting to get better and better whenever it comes to the reps and knowing what's going on, and trust they're going to go out and win the game. The one thing that we've done the last 2 weeks, and I'll just go back to, you can't have good defenses if you don't set edges, if you don't force balls lateral, if you let people run right, through the middle of your defense, if you let, people throw over the top of you. I mean, there's a couple plays to where, it wasn't really blown coverages. We thought the ball was going to come out quicker than what it did, and so we were playing kind of a style of secondary that, and the ball didn't come out. And so some of the stuff that we're asking our guys to do that we got to change up. But you're 100% right. The more our young guys play, the more reps those guys get, the more comfortable they'll get, and they'll play really fast.
And then on offense, left tackle Dalton Merriman had an opportunity in fall camp, and now it seems like he's had an opportunity in the season to take over or at least play a lot more at left tackle. What do you like about him other than the penalties last week?
Yeah, he's got, of course, he's big. He's 6'9", 315. He's really athletic. Like if you go and watch the play of Josh Kelly's touchdown, he and Mason are out in front. He runs really well in space. And he's another guy. The more he plays, I mean, you're talking about a guy like him. He hadn't played in a full year because he wasn't eligible last year. Coming from Blinn Junior College, and it was just a weird rule. It wasn't a grade issue or anything. It's just kind of a rule that wouldn't affect him probably this year because how the rules change. But he's getting better and better the more reps he gets. And he's got a really high care factor. I mean, he's yesterday during our meeting there were 3 plays that I showed our guys that are non-football plays that cost us 45 yards in penalties. And I made a point. I said there's no play that you're going to see a pass interference on here. There's no play you're going to see a holding. It's the non-football penalties. So the things that we've got to keep getting better at, the pre-snap penalties, and then we had 3 non-football penalties that just the game, that's not the way the game should be played. You should expect to get a foul if you're going to push somebody on the pile, stuff like that. And so we're going to eliminate those, and we're going to keep getting better at that. But he's doing a really good job. I'm proud of him.
Coach, I saw Josh Kelly on the injury report. I know that obviously don't want to get into that, what that is. But I guess if he is unable to play this weekend, I guess what kind of impact would that make on the offense? And I guess would you see Micah in that scenario?
And I'm going to be shocked if he ain't ready to go. The one thing on that, and just kind of like looking, is like there's very few times, we really are. We are going above. I'm proud of Mike for doing it. Sometimes I get frustrated with it. But, whenever you see guys in out and you see guys in out for the year, then you should understand they're probably not going to play. Questionable. It takes a lot for them not to be able to go, But if it's not, then we would probably slide Jordan Brown inside just because of, how much he can do. Dre McCray, Brady Boyd, those 3 guys would be the guys that would kind of take that spot and be ready to go. I mean, we had a walkthrough yesterday, and then we had a light jog to get a sweat, and he did both of them. And so, it'll take a lot. Anytime a guy gets dinged up in the game, and some guys may go out or some guys may go out for a play, we try to put them on there just in case something crazy happens during the week, and then we can't the way we're doing this can't be said, hey, these guys aren't being transparent with everything. But those 3 guys would be the guys.
I'm just curious because it feels like the offensive line has kind of struggled picking up some of the exotic stuff that they've thrown at you pass rush wise last couple weeks, and it seems like Cincinnati really does that heavily with their 3 down front. They twist it up a lot, and I guess how does that improve, and how do you get the offensive line to keep bearing upright in those scenarios?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. They do, and you've obviously watched film because they do have a lot of. There's a lot of times that they twist, and it's going to be interesting. Some of that stuff. Running the ball whenever they think you're going to throw the ball, get them in the right twist. And Taj Brooks is really good at finding space. So we'll see, we'll hit them some of that, and that'll slow it down. But, one thing, Barron has gotten hit some, but we're limiting it's like night and day limiting the number of sacks versus, the first first couple of years, and we gave up a one, and that was really a coverage sack. If you go back and think about that one, the guy did come clean, but the ball should have come out, and there was really nowhere for the ball to go. The thing, I think we'll keep getting better. The one thing I did ask our coaches to do, and this is in every single position, not the offensive line, but everywhere, is continue to create competition in their room. I don't want anyone to feel like that they can't go out to practice and they just already have a job, or somebody practicing at a high level. For example, the reason that Macho Stevenson started last week is a three-way competition at corner, and he had the best week of practice, and so he deserved to start, and he played. And we want to keep doing that. We want to keep creating that. Sometimes it's not with your starters. It could be, between John Curry and Michael Dingle and Bryce Ramirez, like who has the best week is going to go in the game, first that way. And so the O-line, it's going to help creating that competition, because Sterling is fully healthy. He feels great. And so he's a guy that, will put some heat on, us getting better there too. And then it's kind of the youth deal too. I think we'll keep seeing Sheridan Wilson get better and better and better because, again, that guy, he's played his fourth college game, and so he'll keep getting better, and that means the offensive line will keep getting better.
Keeping in mind you can't say anything about specific players, but you've made an emphasis of recruiting the Lubbock area, the West Texas kind of area. You had a couple of your guys square off this week.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys you've brought in so far, they're like the lineman, the linebacker, could be offense, could be defense. Have you seen a growth in skill position guys around Lubbock since you've gotten into town?
Man, I'll tell you, I sent a text to Coach Rodriguez this morning. Lubbock High is 3-1. Man, that is awesome. It fires me up, and I just love the football in West Texas. I always have, even whenever I was in the Metroplex. I have a lot better record against Houston teams than I do West Texas teams. I came out here and played Odessa Permian at old Shotwell Stadium, and they kicked my butt. I think they're still running the ball, and so, man, I just love it, man. And, there was a huge game in Lubbock, Texas this week with Friendship and Cooper. And, man, after the fact, I was like, man, I wished I would have pushed to put that in Jones AT&T, because that would have been a cool atmosphere for that game. The one thing that I do love, I love this football out here, and I love the coaches. Man, I get texts from them about our games, congratulations, and I always try to text those guys and do the same thing. That's usually my Friday. I was actually we were at the movies Friday. We watched a really good movie. I think it's called Speak No Evil. I think that's what it was called. But it's a really good movie. So I was watching the movie. I was watching Nebraska, and then I was also following all the high school scores so I could text. So there's a lot of things going on Friday nights, whenever it comes to what we do. But really good football, man. And you just talk about the football. The guys that we have on our team, Holton Hendricks is a really good football player. He's been well coached. Caden Garr is a really good football player. He's well coached. Those guys will keep growing. We got two Midland Legacy guys that play a lot on special teams that are really tough, and Trent Lowe and Wesley Smith. And so football out here in West Texas is really good.
We've made a lot of getting the quarterback run game, obviously, after Washington State, but your run defense has really done a good job bottling up the running backs and what they're trying to do. What's kind of gone into that?
And we're going to have to do it again. The one thing about Coach Satterfield, if you look at him, he has had a offense the last 11 years that has averaged 200 or more yards a year. That's top 30 in the country for the last 11 years. So they're really good at running the football. Schematically, they do a great job, and then they've got a legit both of their backs are really good. A lot of it is, I think, the defensive calls, like taking out some of the stuff as far as like mugging the linebackers up too much and putting them in a situation where they can let big offensive linemen get their hands on them too quick. I think that, I think the defensive tackles have played well. DB and Quincy and Duda, those guys have played well. They've kept people off our linebackers. And, I think Jacob Rodriguez probably had his best game last week, and so I think a lot of that is, I just keep know it sounds simple, but I was like, let us get our feet in the grass and play. Like the least amount of movement that because offensively, people are going to cause movement. They're going to motion. They're going to shift. It's going to happen this week. They're going to motion and shift. They do it a lot on normal downs. Like first and second down, they move a lot on offense. Letting our guys get a call, communicated, and get their feet in the grass and go hit the ball has helped us a bunch.
Go to Emily in the back.
Hey, Emily
Hey.
Wisnowski, officially meeting you.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
the sports reporter for KLBK. You kind of touched on it earlier, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. So there were 9 penalties, 94 yards, that game on Saturday. What's kind of your game plan moving forward? Because, I mean, the defense, hands down, just shut out the opposing team. And so the penalties didn't really affect the game that much. But, you know, moving forward, if there is a closer game, what are you going to do, you know, going from here so that penalties don't affect the outcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. We, you know, we're going to continue doing what, you know, like bringing out the officials. So we'll have officials on Tuesday and Wednesday. They usually give a post-practice report. You know, I think we had 2 procedure penalties or pre-snap penalties. You know, so I know that's 2 too many, but that's still less than what we had. So we got to keep that. And then, you know, there was a big emphasis. I'll give you the 3 penalties. We had a penalty for pushing a player off the pile. We had a penalty where we cleaned up the pile. You know, that's not football. It might have been in 1988 and 89 and 90 when I played football, but it's not that anymore. They're going to call that, you know. And then the very last one, gosh dang it. So there were 3 that went into that. And I can't think of the last one. Those are things, what was it? Yeah, the block below the waist. You know, like they've taken that out of the game. You know, and that was taken out 2 years ago. The frustrating thing about that was a block below the waist on a guy that's 180-something pounds. It's a DB versus a guy that's 260 pounds, and that took 20 yards away from Taj Brooks. It also changed, you know, us running out the clock right there. You know, and so those things like that, that's a choice. That was the point yesterday in our meeting was, you know, those 3 are choices that are no longer football. And so whenever you do that, now it becomes you and you're bigger than the team, and we've got to eliminate that. We have not had that. I don't think those 3 guys are thinking that way. I understand 2 of the 3 penalties. You know, Dalton's trying to get people off Taj. I kind of understand that, but you're going to get a flag, you know, and I understand a little bit because there was a blitz. It happened really quick on Conyers. But, you know, we can't do that. So the things that we can't do, we got to keep pushing our football IQ and then continue trending in the right direction of pre-snap penalties.
After the game on Saturday, you mentioned the fact that Arizona State was one of the leading time of possession teams in the country. Cincinnati's in the top 25
No
this
doubt.
week as well. Has there been more of an emphasis on you guys slowing things down on offense the last couple of weeks, and I guess the thought process into that, because it doesn't seem like there's as much tempo?
Yeah, there's a couple things going in that. One is our pre-snap penalties, you know, and so for us, like, how can we help our players, especially a really young center, is slowing it down, you know, tempoing. We tempoed, you know, early in the first couple of drives, but slowing that down. It's really, you know, one thing that we did against Arizona State is we wanted the football. Like when we knew going into that game that I think I talked about it a little bit on Saturday, but Kitley felt great about his openers. Whenever he felt great about his openers, and he was really, I mean, you could tell that he was confident that we wanted to take the football. We wanted to make a team that is more time of possession driven, play from behind. And then one reason that, you know, and I told the team this yesterday, I was proud of our team is because when we got up 14, we slowed down. Like we were like, hey, we're going to snap this ball at this point right here. We know they're going to load the box. Great, stop Taj, you know. And so that's kind of the winner. That game right there was one of the things that we're really focusing on and trying to get better at. Whenever you're playing teams like this, you know, it's different. You're playing in North Texas or you're playing Abilene Christian and Washington State. I mean, we played 3 tempo teams, and, you know, so it's almost like who can go the fastest, You know, when you're playing a team like Arizona State or you're playing a team like Cincinnati, it's really important that you're, especially when you get a lead like that. You know, it's going to be the same thing, man. You know, I was told a long time ago by an old coach, 14-point lead is the worst lead in football. I never understood that because any lead is a good lead in football, but you know, it's kind of like because the momentum can shift so fast. You know, you're 14, all of a sudden you relax, and now it's a 7-point game, and it's a game. Whenever you got teams that really want to control the clock, 14 points is a big lead. I'd love to have it on Saturday and going into the fourth quarter.
Coaches, how much of a different feeling is it this time around this year compared to where you were, you know, at this point of the year last year, being 1-3, and just how things had turned out in the first game of Big 12 play?
This is, you know, I'm kind of a messed up person because I'm still trying to. I've got that feeling after the Abilene Christian game. I've got the feeling of the Washington State game. Like, that's my feeling right now. You know, I want our guys to be really confident, and they should be. They're playing really hard, and they're 3-1. But, you know, my thought is, how did we have to go into overtime? You know, then how did we let a quarterback run for, you know, like that's the constant in my mind, that we have got to keep getting better. You know, there is an opportunity right now, and I promise you, there's the Big 12 coaches all the way across the board are thinking the same thing. You know, I sent a text to Kenny last week when they beat Texas State. I thought they did a really good job. I thought Arizona State was a tough team. You know, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I was shocked by K-State, the way BYU handled them. You know, this conference, you don't know what you're getting, you know, every single week. And so we've got an opportunity, and, you know, for me and kind of the way my brain works is I'm going to stick in there with the back kind of the 1-3, the way I felt last year, and thinking about, you know, Abilene Christian and Washington State, and we'll just play really hard and see where we end up, because there's an opportunity for us. Somebody is going to be 2-0 in Big 12 play, and we're going to fight our tails off and make sure it's Texas Tech on Saturday, you know, and that puts us in a good spot, and, you know, we'll just get ready for the next week.
Coach, I guess on that same vein, talking about the parity in the Big 12, does it give your team confidence to know that anybody could win any week, or is it a little bit not scary, but sometimes a little overwhelming to know that just about anybody could walk into any stadium and do anything?
I think for them, I think there's confidence, you know, but confidence is in your preparation. You know, we've got to have a great week of practice. You know, I'm telling y'all, this is going to be a fun game. You know, I'm glad it's sold out. I'm glad it's at night, because this is going to be a fun game, because this, you know, really two really good football teams going at each other. But I think, you know, the confidence comes in your preparation of how you got to have a great, you know, Tuesday. You've got to have a great Wednesday. You got to have a great Thursday. You got to have a great Friday. Then going in that game, you should have confidence. You know, the one thing for us, we all understand that there is parity in this conference, and anybody can beat anybody, you know. I mean, you think about Cincinnati. I mean, they just beat Houston 34-0, a Houston team that went in to OU, and I think that game was 16-12 or something like that. And so this is a conference that's a lot of fun every single week. We just got to remember, man, that it's all about the process and the preparation, and that the way you do that should bring your confidence to where you're ready to go play on Saturday.
And then tight end Mason Tharp, I know he hasn't been on the stat sheet as much
Yeah.
this season. No, he's very involved in the blocking, but can you just talk about his leadership? I guess what he brings to that tight end room this year.
Man, he is huge. You know, he was a captain that very first week. We've got 5 captains. If I was going to name and go to 6 or 7, it would probably be C.J. Baskerville and Mason Tharp. Mason Tharp, man, is such an incredible player for us. He is doing a great job in the run game. It's I hate it because there's been a couple times where we've had him. You know, he had I think it was a big pass interference call 2 weeks ago. We had a third down that we didn't catch the ball. You know, his stats have come, man. He's too good of a player whenever it comes to that. But I know the two things, he wants us to be able to run the football, and he's a big part of it, and he wants us to win. And so, man, just such a great person to have. And he does. He makes that room right, like everything that's going on. And I think the good thing is all those tight ends are growing, and then our 2 young tight ends, Jason Llewellyn, who's a redshirt sophomore, and then a true freshman, Trey Jackson, they'll look back on their career and they'll be thankful that they had Mason Tharp to kind of show them how to be a pro.
Joey, the first 6 teams that you guys faced this year are all teams that you did not play last year, and I don't think you played them since you've been here. I was curious how that affected your off-season or summer. Did y'all have to put more man hours into studying all these teams that you haven't seen versus what you might normally do off-season for a TCU or a Baylor?
Well, what we do in the summer, going into the coming out of spring and in summer, is we break down our first 4 opponents, and so we kind of had everybody up until this point broken down. And then once you get to, we'll watch Cincinnati, we've watched Arizona, but once you start getting into the season, now you've got 4 games that you can watch, and so you kind of know who these guys are. And we watch Cincinnati more from the defensively and their offense, because we knew they were changing coordinators, and whenever they hired the linebacker coach from Iowa State, we knew that we were going to get a lot of what Iowa State does, and they do a really good job. But most of the stuff that we do in the summer, we have every single week we have a meeting, and it starts them kind of presenting the overview of the coaches and who they are, and the special teams coordinator, and then their personnel. And so we do it with the first 4 opponents, and then we'll watch throughout the summer the other people, but not as heavy breakdown because we're going to get 4 games.
So it didn't really drastically change your time spent on teams compared to any other offseason?
No, but it is definitely different. It's fun to play new people. It's fun to get that challenge, but it didn't. We would do the same thing if it was somebody we knew, because you're 100% right. Like TCU, I mean, we're familiar because we played them last year with Kendall as the OC, but they have a new DC, and so they're different, and so whenever we see them, that's going to be something new. It's always kind of changing in college football.
Subject to quarterbacks, I was curious, does anybody from your staff have any kind of connection or know the Sorsby kid, since he's Metroplex kid?
No, not very well. I mean, kind of seen him play in high school and stuff like that, but there's nobody that really has a real connection to him. And he's really efficient right now. Probably one of the most efficient quarterbacks. Hadn't turned the ball over, and man, he does a great job operating that offense.
He went to, I think, Lake Dallas, and John Mateer went to Little Elm.
Yeah.
And I think there's like 4 or 5 former Texas Tech quarterbacks starting for other teams.
Yeah.
How have you seen the development of Texas high school quarterbacks in your time, say the last 20 years or so?
One of the biggest things that's changed the game in Texas is the emphasis on the schools being able to, and I say the schools being able to go play 7-on-7 and run their offenses throughout the entire, off season and summer. Man, that was big for us. When I was at Cedar Hill, we were always in a league. We usually played 2 times during the week before spring football, and then we were in tournaments, and I think that's a big part of it. You can't go away from the impact that like a Mike Leach has had on quarterbacks, because you can go anywhere. I'm sure on Friday night you saw a lot of air raid concepts in the game here between Friendship and Lubbock Cooper, and so guys like that, I think, and I could be wrong, but Makovic, that was at Texas, was one of the first college guys to really push for because he was a California guy, I think, or an Arizona guy, that they played more 7-on-7 than we did in the state of Texas. That's a long time ago, but they really pushed it, and so I think that has a lot to do with it.
All right, we'll have Coach Druder here in a minute.
All right, thank y'all. Great seeing y'all.
Afternoon.
All right, go ahead, Sean.
More than 50% of your defensive snaps are coming from underclassmen. Who was standing out to you?
I'll tell you, I think Chapman Lewis and Brendan Jordan really had a nice game last week. Both those guys made some big-time plays in some critical situations. I was happy to see, Macho step up, win the competition last week. We got to get him more physical. He knows that. He had one particularly bad rep, but for a guy that played a lot of snaps last week in his first meaningful game and being a conference game, I thought he did a lot of really good things.
Fourth down conversions, making big stops. How has the defense evolved and feeling better about being better each game?
I think our guys obviously take a lot of pride, and they knew we didn't play well the first two games, and they went to work. And as coaches, we had to give them some things to help them. You go into a season and you practice in the spring, you practice in the fall, and you think guys can do certain things, situations, and I think with the youth of some of our guys, we probably gave them too much, and it, created some confusion. You can't play good defense when you're confused, and so we simplified some things, got our guys playing good fundamental football, and we knew last week we had a great challenge in Scattaboo, and our guys rose to that challenge.
And not just Scattaboo, but the last couple of weeks we talked about containing quarterback runs. Y'all did a great job of that. It's a big key to the game. How are y'all able to stop Arizona or slow down Arizona State's running game?
Well, I mean, it was a similar run game, I think, that we practiced all week that we expected. We knew that they had an excellent back, and we knew we had to get multiple guys to the back because he makes so many guys miss. We're facing another challenge like that this week. I think our guys just honed in on it and really strained to get there. In the fourth down plays, they create extra surfaces, and sometimes they make a corner have to make a play. Mo Horn made a big time play, tackling him for no gain. It's guys understanding what they got to do in a situation and going out and doing it.
In Cincinnati, you kind of mentioned a similar situation, but what stands out about their offense?
Oh, these guys they probably have more weapons. You look at an elite tight end like Royer, Henderson, the receivers, one of the top receivers in the conference. The two backs, you got to start there. Kiner and Pryor, big time backs. You look at, overall they're running for right at 200 or over 200 yards and throwing for another 270. I mean, that's big time efficiency. And so they challenge you not only in the run game, but they use the run game to set up their down the field throws. And I think Sorsby does a really nice job throwing vertical balls. And they don't turn it over very much. So it makes for a tough combination because you got to get them off track, get them off schedule, and they stay on schedule.
Coach, kind of on that vein with the run game for them, it seems like it's a lot of wide zone, maybe some outside counter, like C-gap counter, stuff like that. I guess with your edges and setting the edge, is that of importance this week? And I guess how do you know?
Yeah, anytime you get a team that's going to be a wide zone team like this, it's critical that you do a great job setting edges. They're not a huge counter team. It's a little counter game that they'll do. A little bit, I think, as we're studying it, I think it's a little game plan specific to certain types of defense. But they're going to be an inside zone team and an outside zone team primarily. They're going to create additional surfaces through motions, and then they do a great job of shifting, motioning, trying to get your eyes and get guys misfitting gaps. And when they do, those backs are explosive enough to take advantage and make huge plays. So it's going to be another game of having to play with great discipline, trying to mix some things up enough that we're not just totally vanilla, but we have to be sound. So getting our guys ready to go play that way.
Kind of on that, I know Coach has kind of mentioned it a couple times here with the field blitz, the field pressure that you've sent, and you've gotten hit on I think it's like the screen or something like that they sit out there. I guess what's your thoughts on that, and how frustrating is that to give up those kind of plays?
When you're playing teams that have explosive players, you've got to fit things the right way, and clearly we didn't on the same call. Ironically, in any defense, you've got to have a guy setting an edge, whether it's out on the perimeter, with a flat defender turning it back in, or whether it's a defensive end on a wide zone play. Someone's got to set that edge and turn it back to everybody else. And when that doesn't get accomplished, bad things happen. We happened to be in a situation where we were effectively in man coverage. Then we got out leveraged, and then we missed tackles on the perimeter. And give him credit, he made our guys miss, but we got to do a better job of tackling. We got to do a better job of teaching the tackling.
Coach, their offense has put up 52 points in the first quarter. I'm just curious if you've seen anything from them in terms of what it makes them so explosive in that first quarter, and maybe what you can do to stop that without giving anything away right now.
I think they do a lot of game plan specific things, and so each week they're going to have wide zone, but they're going to dress it up differently. They've come out, and I think they've done a nice job of play action, taking some shots on people, and so it's people misfitting, running game, and it's guys getting behind them, and so you got to do a great job with your eye discipline. If you're playing coverage, you can't be sneaking peeks into the run game. That's where they get people. For us to play well at the start, I think we've done that, particularly the last couple of weeks. We got to sustain that through the entire game, and once we get into it where we kind of have a feel for what they're trying to do out of different personnel groupings and motions, I think maybe that's when we may have a little better sense of what they're doing and get our guys understanding that. But it's about playing just freaking hard, getting our cleats in the grass and getting off blocks.
Anything else, Tom?
Tim, I asked Joy this a moment ago, but your first 6 opponents this year, the entire first half of the season, are teams that y'all did not play last year and haven't played since you've been here. And I was curious from your perspective how that affects you preparation-wise and how you do things. Seeing a Cincinnati and an Arizona State versus a TCU and a Baylor.
During the summer you do your summer prep stuff, and you have your normal views of that. In the era of transfer portal stuff, we're seeing some players that were playing for the Buckeyes last year. So you don't see those guys when you're looking at them on tape last year. Other games like our opener, we're playing a new coordinator, so you're watching his tape, where he was at West Georgia. Our players are watching that, but it's guys, you're not playing against these players. You're playing against Abilene Christian guys, and so you got to mix and match. Those things can be a little bit difficult, but once we get into this part of the season, we had a feel for them last year. Now we've seen 4 games. We kind of know who their players are. This is probably the best this is the best offensive line we've faced. Very veteran group. They play very physically. They're very well coached, and so they understand how to target. When you try to create some confusion with twist games, or they don't get fooled, and so it's going to be a heck of a challenge. And hopefully our preparation this week with our players, we keep it simple enough for them that we can play fast like we've had the last 2 weeks.
I guess transfer portal in general then has made your job much more difficult preparation-wise than it was 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah,
no doubt. The quarterbacks from Indiana, the tight end that they have is a elite tight end. So they're saying he's a first or second day guy in the draft. 6'5", 250-pound guy who can really run and is long. The Pryor, the back, he can take the top off. I think everybody understands what Ohio State's done recruiting-wise the last few years. So if they recruited you, you probably got some talent, and they definitely show up on tape. But it is what it is. You got to be ready for people to reload, and I think they've done a nice job of bringing some pieces in that are very explosive.
We'll finish with call your
Hey, Coach. I asked Coach a moment ago about time of possession for the opposition. Cincinnati's top 25 in that. Arizona State was higher than that. How much does it help you guys, specifically these last two games? It seems like the offense has not been going as fast. Your offense, I'm speaking. How much does that help you guys maybe to work with the team on the sideline and just not be out there as many reps?
Well, I think you look at Arizona State last week, you look at these guys this week, the reason their time of possession is what it is one, they don't go a ton of tempo, they mix it in, but they're running the football, so that clock's running. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you're having to defend 100 plays versus 65 plays, you got a better chance on a per play average. So yeah, it definitely helps. You know, we've got extra time to get those tablets and see, hey, what hurt us? Okay, this is what we got to fix. And just the rest time between series definitely helps. But our job is not to worry about the offensive tempo. It's whenever we're called on it, it doesn't matter when, we got to go play defense and be excited to go play defense and try to seize the momentum and play complementary football. And I think, you know, particularly Saturday, for the most part, we did that. And I think our offense did a nice job. You know, when we got the short field for them, you know, to start the ball game, that, you know, they take it down and score, and those kind of things can really affect the ball, you know, momentum of a ball game, and you know, obviously helps you win.
All right, we'll wrap up there and bring up Coach Kitley. Thanks, guys.
First two drives, everything was working. How do you grade your own play calling right now this year?
I'd probably give myself about a 75% because we're 3-1. So, because at the end of the day, all I really care about, man, is that W. So I'll go with 75% right now.
Which position group on offense has surprised you the most so far this year?
Man, probably the running back room. Just, you know, with those two young guys having to step up and play, you know, they're doing a really good job. I mean, clearly, we know what we're going to get from Taj Brooks on a weekly basis. He had another typical Taj Brooks game, you know, grinded out a lot of dirty yards there. And but, man, those two young kids have come in and done a really good job. So proud of those guys.
You were able to grind clock with 3 drives of over 5 minutes. How does slowing it down help or hurt Barron?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if it helps or hurts him. You know, we got in the point where we were playing, we were just kind of off a little bit there in the second half, felt like early. And we had those 2 back-to-back drives where that was just kind of flipped my mindset a little bit of, I thought our defense was playing really, really well, shutting their offense down, and we were not hitting on all cylinders at that time. So I just decided that, hey, let's try to grind a little bit of this clock out here and go get a win. Again, I mean, not concerned with yards or points around that stuff. Let's go get a win. And we had back-to-back. It was right under 11 minutes in back-to-back drives that we ate up, and we ended up getting 2 field goals out of it and helping secure the game. And really, that's all that matters.
Jarrett and Justin.
Coach, I've asked you in previous seasons about what the offensive identity is, and it seems like y'all have established one. And I'm curious if you agree with that and how you describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our guys are making a lot of plays this year, which is good to see. I mean, clearly, you know, it helps having Taj Brooks, man. I mean, talk about him all day and each week in here, but man, it helps him. It helps everybody having him, and then, man, guys are just making plays, like I said. You know, I mean, there's a couple we left out there I felt like, but, man, Josh Kelly's a stud. I mean, y'all are seeing what he does with the ball in his hands. He's doing a great job. We got 3 good tight ends that are doing a lot of things for us. Running backs are playing well. That receiver room, there's a bunch of good guys. So, again, the key is kind of trying to be balanced, you know, and, again, really, really ride off what 28 can do. And man, I mean, they were packing the box sometimes. And, again, we just I flipped that mindset of, hey, let's stop trying to go score right now because of how the game was going and how we're playing, and we were able to grind out some yards and eat some clock, which is, again, that's the goal, is to go win a football game. And so I think that's kind of my mentality right now of what I feel like we're trying to do is, you know, whatever it takes to win. And, again, there's going to come down some of these games where it's going to be flipped a little bit, and we're going to go throw for a lot of yards, and I'm confident whenever that game is here, we'll be able to get that done.
Speaking of that, Barron didn't have a monster game statistically, but efficient, didn't turn the ball over. how'd you grade his performance?
Yeah, he did a good job, man. I mean, again, there's a couple plays out there that we left out there. I felt like had a few drop balls there that would have helped some of the statistics and some of those things. But man, he played pretty clean. A couple plays that we got to do a couple things better, which I got to help him there. And but man, he graded out pretty well. Again, number one, you said it early, man. Take care of the football. If we don't turn the ball over at the quarterback position, we're going to win a lot of football games, I feel like. So that's what I'm proud of. And the biggest thing is continuing to get him to understand he's got to protect himself too. A couple times late where we got out of the pocket and I needed him to go down or throw that ball away a little bit quicker. But that one of the second to last drive, and we're trying to chew out a little bit of clock right there. We decided to throw the ball there on third down, and we got some pressure, so he moved to his right. And one thing we talked about before that play was, hey, if you do get flushed or it's not open, man, like go down, just so we can make sure we're chewing more clock. And he did that right there on the sideline and was able to eat up another 40 seconds of the play clock, which was a smart play by him. So proud of that. But those are some of those hits that I'm trying to get him to not take anymore.
Justin and Zach.
Coach, you're going up against this 3-down odd stack stuff again. I guess, how does that change the run game, and how do you anticipate blocking number 2 and number 97 on their side?
Yeah, man, they're really good. It's kind of one of those things, man. It's good for us because we've seen it a lot and we've practiced against it a lot. It's very similar to ACU and North Texas, clearly, and so we've got some stuff that we like against it that we've had some success at this year in those two games. But at the same time, they're going to be gunning for those concepts and some of those things that we've ran. So we've got to do a good job of coming up with the game plan. And man, you said it though, man. They're really physical up front, man. And that nose guard, preseason All-American. I think he weighs like 325 pounds, man. I mean, he's a load in there, and in 97, man, edge rusher, he plays his tail off, man. He's a really good football player. You can tell they're coached well. Again, man, comes from that Iowa State Coach Haycock tree, and he's one of the best in the business at what he does. So I know these guys are ready to go. And again, you're seeing that very similar structure. So we're gonna have to have a good plan, and again, we've got to have answers for number 2 and 97 coming in this week.
I'm curious about what you thought about Caleb Douglas so far this season. It feels like he's gotten more involved, less of a just deep threat. He's gotten involved underneath, making some guys miss, I guess. What do you think about what he's added to this offense this season?
Yeah, man. I mean, we knew that he could do the things he's doing right now. Again, just some of the things schematically we got in, hit him on a couple of those bang 8 posts early. Again, kind of knew those would be there, and it just kind of happened to be we were on the certain hash that the ball's going to go his way versus Coy's way, but it is what it is, and he made some good plays early, and a couple of those underneath catches he made. He's for being tall and long like he is, he's a twitched up guy, man, and he can make you miss. So proud of him. He's doing a good job, and like I said, all those guys are doing good, and he's really come along.
Go ahead, Zach.
Coach John Carlos Miller transferring in, already making a huge impact. There's 3 straight weeks with a receiving touchdown. What have you seen from him, just being able to get him involved early?
Yeah, man, just consistency. He's awesome, and man, it's tough, man. I mean, I'd love to get all those guys touchdowns every week, and they just kind of fall how they fell, But he's done a really good job, and he's kind of that one, that backfield tight end for us a lot of the times, and that we kind of was easy to scheme up that touchdown for him this week after what we had done the week before, that same personnel package and formation, and again, he did it right, man. Really kudos on that play to going back to Caleb Douglas, man. I mean, Caleb Douglas did a teach, take, push, crack right there to get that open for him on the flat, and his easy pitch and catch for Barron and him. But no, he's done a really good job, man. Very consistent with him. Comes in each practice ready to work. Likes to block too. Just likes to really do whatever you ask him to do, man. So really proud of him. And again, I think you're going to continue to see him grow. I mean, you talk about a very raw athlete for the position. Playing tackle in high school and then receiver last year, man. I mean, I think you're going to continue to see him just get better and better as we go.
Kenny Dillingham said after the game that after those first couple of drives, they kind of had to invite you to run the ball because you were beating them through the air so much. How did you kind of see that? Do you kind of consider that a win for the scheme of, you want us to give the ball to Taj?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, they going in, we knew they were they hang their hat on stopping the run. It's what their defense likes to do. And again, man, we were not very clean in our blocking assignments, to be honest. It's kind of crazy. Taj had 117 yards or whatever it was, and man, I mean, I think we left 50, 60 yards out there. We had the one big penalty after the 20-yard run that would have, gave him at least another 20 plus more there. But no, again, man, I like to try to do what the do what the defense is giving us. Again, late in the game, we were just like, hey, we're about to run the clock out here and get out of here with the win, and they had some heavy boxes, and we were still able to grind out some yards and get some first downs at times in that too. But no, man, they did a really good job defensively, man. They gave us some fits in some certain areas, and again, it's always good to have to clean those things up after a win versus a loss.
Coach, I think it's fair to say that this is one of the most NFL caliber tight end rooms you've ever coached. I guess how much more fun does it make your job, and maybe even easier, knowing that you have this many guys that you can rely on?
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I mean, again, all three of those guys are unique in what they do, and again, it's fun trying to find different ways to get them the ball. And again, I really thought we were going to get my man Big Mace a couple touchdowns this last week, and it just didn't work out for him. But that's how the ball goes sometimes, and he's our point of attack blocker, and the other two guys are more of that backfield H-back or true split back next to the quarterback type guys for us, and it's just kind of been what it was. But now it makes a lot of fun, and Coach Cochran, tight ends coach, is doing a really good job with those guys and getting them to buy into the blocking as well, because that's such a huge part of what we do, especially with number 28 back there. So a lot of fun for me, man. We have a lot of fun with those guys each week, trying to find different ways to get them the ball.
That Tharp hasn't really been on the scoreboard, but I guess can you talk about the person that he is, the leader that he is, maybe on the sidelines or in those huddles, just kind of getting everybody amped up?
Yeah, he's been awesome, man. I mean, he was, through spring ball and through summer, he was the guy that just really showed up every day, man, and did an unbelievable job being a leader. I think he has done an unbelievable job of showing the ropes, if you will, to Jalen and John Carlos, and getting those guys going. And he stays on them like a coach, and he's done a great job, man. I mean, again, on and off the field, leadership roles. He's a really smart football player. So, again, I think there's some things that he can help teach those guys, and can't speak highly enough of him. And, I hate it for him because he's the only one that hadn't got a touchdown quite yet, but he'll have some as the season goes along for sure.
Coach, does it feel like you just have more stability on offense this year, just health-wise, obviously, at quarterback, and then with so many playmakers to go to, just compared to where you were last year?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the quarterback, man. Being able to go to week 5 with the same guys is pretty nice, and again, he's playing well, which is, huge for our football team. And then, yeah, clearly it hurts, not having Vinny Scurry in there at guard, but other than him, man, we've been, knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky so far this year with injuries. And, man, anytime you can just have continuity in there and you have that chemistry with those guys, I mean, it helps you, and so if we can continue to stay healthy and some of those things, I do feel like there's a little bit more stability there, and we're not having to shuffle as many guys around, and, you're kind of going out there every week, and, your tight ends are rotating, but, I mean, you've got Taj Brooks in there for most of the snaps, you got Quay Aiken out there for most of the snaps, Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas, and that's just kind of where we're at, and I know from the quarterback's standpoint, that having that continuity out there with those guys that he's gotten the most reps with helps a lot. So definitely feel the stability is a lot better right now.
We'll wrap up with Don.
Zach, I enjoyed this question earlier, but Brendan Sorsby went to Lake Dallas, and John Mateer at Washington State went to Little Elm, and 4 or 5 former Texas Tech quarterbacks are starting for other teams. How would you describe just the coaching that Texas high school quarterbacks are getting to where it's producing this number of quarterbacks, more even than there are jobs open in the state of Texas? There are all these Texas high school quarterbacks starting elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just first and foremost just starts with Texas high school football in general. I mean, there's no better high school football in the country than the state of Texas. And, I'm not just saying that because I'm from here. It's a fact, and again, man, me and Kirk Bryant, my assistant quarterback coach, we were talking last night about quarterback play in the state of Texas, and it's so much more advanced. You're getting a lot more guys coming out of high school that are more polished. And I think that starts with guys like, Coach Todd Dodge and his son as well. Like, these guys are going through these, these quarterback schools and some of this stuff in the off season with their players. And, they're teaching them coverages and teaching them the right footwork and some of that stuff. And, You know, I think that's invaluable to young guys, you know, when they get here. You know, I think that it gives those guys a head start on the competition when you can come in and you can be able to identify coverages and understand what drops and stuff you need to take for certain concepts. But yeah, that's just, you know, tip to the hat to the Texas high school coaches, man. I mean, I think they're ahead of the game on everything else, and I mean, you see it across the country, 'cause like you said, there's a lot of Texas high school quarterbacks starting in big time football.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Thank y'all.